Hello, Capricorn. My name is Kristen Simone Hansen, and welcome to SeaGoat Secrets. Hi Capricorn, I am Kristen and I am a healer. In this video, you are going to get a full rundown of the 9 numerological year and how it affects you and your Capricorn placements. If at any point in this video you feel connected to me and would like to become a client of mine, you can do so by joining this link here and also in the bio. I welcome you. Also, if you would like to get a deeper dive of yourself and your own birth chart assessment for this year of the 9, understanding the kind of personal year it is for you, again, you can book me at this particular service. And as you all know, I am a global citizen. And if you have not already, please let me know where you're listening from in the comments and we can all connect and be a strong collective. Now, with all that being said, let's get into this. Hi Capricorn, so here we are in the 9 year. This is quite exciting because last year was your year. It was the year of the 8. It was the Capricorn year. Just to clarify, because I did speak to someone about this in the comments, the number 8, yes, in astrology is associated with Scorpio, because Scorpio is the ruler of the 8th house. However, when we're talking about numerology is equated to and connected to Capricorn when it comes to the year, the number 8. So that is why I kept saying that it was your year, your karmic year, because of the way the number 8 is associated with Capricorn, especially when it comes to its relationship with Saturn and karma. So last year, on a global scale, we saw a lot of things tied to public karma, people's skeletons coming out of the closet, karmic situations taking place in major corporations or industries, careers being exposed. And then on an interpersonal level, we saw this karma play out in our personal lives in terms of people that we knew, relationships either forming or completely dissipating, and what it is that we gave being able to be dished out back to us. Now, this does not necessarily mean that this was entirely comfortable. I think sometimes when we think about karmic retribution, we want to believe that we're always going to end up on the good side of it, or that it's always going to be bad. You know, karma is simply karma. And sometimes your karmic retribution is actually the very same thing that you think you do not want, being the very thing that you need. So for Capricorn in specific, especially when Pluto ventured back into your sign at the end of the year, you guys could have found yourselves, instead of being hit with big traumatic actual events, it could have just been a lot of heaviness in terms of your emotional body, a lot of rest, especially when Sagittarius went into the sun. There was a lot of things tied to Capricorn's subconscious mind and trying to go through the barrels of the past while you were dealing with your Pluto shadow period after Capricorn left Pluto in specific. So it was a pretty heavy end of the year for you, but not necessarily literal bare bones. Most of it was what was going on inside of you, and that was your karma in that way. I know for many of you it felt heavy, especially for those of you in the client circle who were telling me about the things that you were going through and the wars and the woes that were going on inside. However, that is karmic retribution, your ability to be able to heal, your ability to be able to have rest, or your ability to be able to even just process what it is that you had gone through, or process what it is that's going on inside without so much happening on the outside interfering with that. Okay, so it's important to understand that. Now, as we step into the year of the 9 year also is about karma as well, but it's more about completion. 9 for us as a human collective is the end. So it's everything leading up into the now. 9 is also usually associated with Piscean energy, which is why it can be associated with like things like humanitarianism, compassion, an all-encompassing understanding of people and how they feel, and acceptance. You know, people who are governed by the numerology number 9 tend to have an old soul. They can have a wise kind of energy about them, an all-encompassing acceptance acceptance energy about them. These are the things that are associated with 9. But when we are in a year of the 9 as a human collective, we're going to see a lot of things tied to great endings. And most importantly, the way in which those great endings end an entire generational era, not just because of the way Pluto has now shifted into Aquarius, but also the fact that we are moving from the Piscean age into the Aquarian age officially. So when we're talking about big themes coming to an end, big themes coming to an end. This is going to show itself majorly on the political and social political stages. Things that were normalized could have been for 40, 50, 60 years being flipped on their heads. The ways that people think, the ways that people looked at the old world versus the new world. Another thing as well is nostalgia. So whether positive or negative, it's people kind of going back to the good old days when things used to be like this, or when society used to be like that. I'm going to get into the personal in a second, but I wanted to start on the world stage. So a lot of things tied to nostalgia, people wanting things to be the way that they once were a long time ago, and putting in as much energy and effort as they can to bring that back. We could also see brands kind of going back in time in terms of things that they used to do and trying to see if they still work now versus when they used to work in the past. We can also see things tied to the general public also wanting to, again, go back to like the good old days. So it can be an illusion of the good old days, a perspective of that. But it's nonetheless, it's kind of the open air. People want to heal in this 9-year in specific, mainly because Pisces has now moved into the North Node. So with Pisces in the North, and Pisces again is the end, and Pisces is associated with the 9, big endings, but most importantly, lots of compassion, lots of awareness, lots of emotional fullness in that way. And that's the big thing with this year of 9 in specific. So when we bring it on a interpersonal level, this is big in terms of karmic cycles for you, Capricorn, because you have been through it. You you have gone through the ringer when it comes to being the leader of the Pluto transit, having it be all eyes on you. You are now in your second house activation with Aquarius being in Pluto, moving into the Aquarian age. It's all been about you, and you guys have really been put through it and given the ringer because you are Capricorns. You know, life has been bearing itself upon you. Many of you could experience the kind of traumas that just seemed impossible to try to get through, especially in the client circle, the stories that we've gone through together, and the wars that we've healed together. It's this, you know, life for Capricorn has been quite unfair, depending on who's watching this. But it was to transform you, it was to change you, it was to evolve you. And most importantly, you guys were dealing with karmic cycles that felt bigger than you, oftentimes dealing with situations that felt like there was no possible way to avoid them and or evade them. And that was all by design. So this is a big time for healing for you. And I mean healing on a grand scale. We're talking ending big cycles, okay? So karmic things that you have been experiencing could have been even since childhood being able to finalize. People being able to have compassion toward you that never had compassion toward you before. Now, this can be direct in your face, or it can be something that is just kind of felt. Like if people didn't know who you were previously, oh, they know you now. If people, especially because Pisces is in North Node and Pisces is in your third house, so you could be having conversations with people from the way past. We're talking people who maybe didn't understand you a long time ago, didn't believe you, didn't hear your story, didn't hear your side, didn't believe in who it is that you were. Childhood wars, childhood bullies, even being able to come into the conversation and be able to understand you. There's a lot of social compassion toward you, a social awareness of you in this way, and people having a desire to really talk to you. So if you have been no contact, if you have been not speaking to people, if you have cut ties with individuals, this is a great year that you will be able to see healing. People want to heal, and they want to, and because it's the third house, it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be face to face. You know, third house activation, usually the 11th house is associated with social media and the internet, but with the third house, it's all about how you communicate. So in this case, it can just be as simple as text, emails online, messages sent via social media, phone calls could really bring endings to big, long-term karmic cycles, things that you have been carrying for a long time, things that you have been trying to heal through for a long time, things that happened a long time ago, could have been at the beginning of your Pluto transit. I tend to have a theory that the beginning of the Pluto transit usually comes in with a bang. So wherever your karma is, once Pluto shifts into your first house, those first couple of years are very trying, very trying. And Aquarius is going through that now. So for you guys, it can be being able to close cycles that started back in 2007, getting that healing, getting that understanding, being able to speak to people that you couldn't have spoken to before, being able to finally close doors that you thought would never close, being able to be understood in a way that you never thought possible. This is some of the energy that is on your side in terms of this year in specific. Great closure, healing closure. When we go from Saturn in Pisces and we shift into Saturn being in Aries, this is around the month of May. And I really want you guys to pay attention to this, because this is when the shift for you happens in terms of you focusing on your home and family environments. And as you begin to focus on home and family, lots of healing tied to this very subject, healing tied to what home means for you, especially for those of you with the mother wound, especially for those of you who have wounded family relationships. Even if you are not speaking yourself, there's a closure that wants to be had. You're being able to come to peace, come to terms with this energy. And this is big for you, Capricorn, because this 9 year is the driving force behind you being able to find peace, being able to find completion and balance while we shift into a new era. The reality of the past is a big conversation on a global and human scale. And so we can also see in terms of society, people being honest and less, let's say, delusional about what the past actually was like, or what other people's experiences could be like. So when we're looking at victimization, how people have been victimized, scapegoated, on a societal scale, you're seeing people side with the scapegoat, being able to understand the mirage cast around someone who had been scapegoated or victimized on a social political scale, or just maybe in the world of what we see on television and different things like that. You're seeing people side with the scapegoat because of all this compassion coming into full degree for this year. And also the reality of things that had taken place between people. And so on a bigger scale, this can be, again, looking at the way that life has just been for all that we who are alive know. From the Capricorn Pluto and what has taken place over from 2007 up until now, but then also the entire age of Pisces, which was Piscean age is everything down to human debauchery, because we were at a low vibrational plane. We're talking about human debauchery. We're talking about human trafficking. We're talking about the way that women were viewed. All of these things, when it came to the Pisces lower vibrational energy, it's people. You're going to be seeing people this year get more honest and more authentic about the realities of the recent age and the things that took place. The thing is, as people come to terms with what the past has been, it's a deep desire to let the past go. So it's like a balance between needing to acknowledge it in order to go through it. The only way out is through. And in order to change, one has to fully accept themselves. They have to accept themselves at a high degree. So again, on a personal level, this is big for you, Capricorn, but you're also going to be experiencing this with people around you. But obviously this video is about you. You have to accept yourself in order to prevail. You have to accept where it is that you have been in order to progress forward. Excuse me. For you guys who have more fixed dominant placements, this is going to be more big for you than I think those of you have cardinal dominance. If you're cardinal dominant, Capricorn, Aries, Libra, Cancer, there's more acceptance, it's more understanding because of what you just went through with your Pluto transit, versus those of you who have more fixed energies, Scorpio, Taurus, Leo and Aquarius, there's more stubbornness. You guys really are being tested to have to accept the truth of who it is that you are and where you have been up until this point. And only through acceptance can you actually let go of what has been and allow yourself to progress forward. Versus the Cardinals, because you guys are used to this energy because of what took place with the Pluto transit, there is less resistance there. But all across the board on a personal level, you have to accept the truth about what has happened and how you have gotten yourself up until until this point in order to let it go and progress forward, to allow yourself to move forward. There can be a numbness or a stagnation that you can be experienced, especially for fixed energies, when it comes to having to accept the past as it was in order to change, in order to evolve. The biggest conversation when it comes to the masculine feminine principles, for those of you who are masculine dominants, a lot of your thoughts will be bombarded by the past. For those of you who are feminine dominants, a lot of your feelings will be bombarded by the past. So it's a dance between the two, okay? It's important to understand, especially for you, Capricorn, that your memories will be in full degree this year. So things that you've forgotten about, things that you didn't want to remember, things that were sitting in your subconscious, we're talking memories that could be so deeply buried into your subconscious, and all of a sudden they find themselves here. They find themselves in your face, ready for you to move through them. This is all in good, let's say, regard in order to get you to move forward. The divine wants you to let go because it really wants you to be renewed. It wants you to be revived, Capricorn. It wants you ready and able to step into your era of wealth energy when we're talking about Aquarius, okay? When we're talking about your second house, Venusian activation, the divine wants you to let it go. So it's going to bring up old things. You will find yourself wanting to have conversations with old people. You're going to find yourself sitting and ruminating, and rumination is okay. Do not criticize, do not categorize yourself in any kind of way, because this is to help you. So it's not a matter of allowing yourself to be tortured about ideas of the past or things that have taken place or things that are on the mind and thinking that that means that you're stuck. You are not stuck. It is here to end things. It's being unearthed so you can clean out the river finally, to let it all go and let the water run clear. I think one of the most frustrating things about this year is it can feel like you must go back in order to go forward. And that feeling of having to backtrack in order, it can feel like you're taking 10 steps back in order to take 2 steps forward. But that's not the case. It's just in order to actually push forward, think of it like a boomerang. There are things buried that you need to address, that you need to understand in order to get to the next step. Closure. This whole year is about closure. Emotions are on a high degree because there is a lot of there can be emotions like shame, guilt, regret, pain becoming unearthed, because when we're kind of stuck in the past, obviously we tend to be in a very difficult emotional place. But again, it's about embracing those emotions. It is an emotionally uprooting year. You can find yourself digging in deep in terms of your subconscious, or digging in deep into the past in a way that can hurt, having conversations that hurt, dealing with situations and people that hurt. Okay. Now on another scale as well, this can be karmic as well, where you're dealing with old situations that aren't the same people, but it's the same type of dynamic made for you to finally put an end to it, respond to it differently than you would have responded previously. The dance between, especially for those of you who are dealing with the past directly, meaning trying to create closure in relationships or family, or what we're also going to see on society's scale, accountability. Again, like I said, blame, shame, who's responsible, kind of a kicking and screaming dynamic, the villain versus the bully, and how the bully tries to create the mirage that the victim is actually the villain. You know, seeing a lot of that, a lot of finger pointing, you know, because that's the weight of closure. In order for things to truly be finished, we have to go through that kind of uprooting experience to get us to a certain place so that things can finally be released. So conflicts, because it is an emotional year. The 9 is emotional. That's why it's associated with Pisces. It is emotional. And we're also looking at Pisces being in the north. And then when we shift into that Saturn going into Aries around May, this is Aries energy is bringing in that fight. It's bringing in the fire. Okay. But when Saturn goes into Aries, it wants us to think before we act. It wants us to be more controlled in our impulses. And this is difficult to acquire during a very emotional year. But it's the task that all of us are being tasked with, to think before we speak, to really ground that energy so we can find ourselves pioneering to progress forward. So you can just see, you know, big conflicts, and then a desire, you know what, let's just let it go. You know, there is no more finger pointing or blame shifting. One has to find rest here. The point for this year, I would say, is mindfulness. When one focuses on mindfully letting go, mindfully allowing yourself to find peace within, then closure and completions can happen at a degree that is just very, let's say, beneficial. The more you try to hold on, the more painful it will be when it comes to letting go. It's important to know when to let go this year, when to just surrender the fight in that way. But again, allow all the emotions to be moved through. In simple terms, this can create just a lot of relationship conflicts, especially if you're going through a divorce. Exes, conversations with exes, conversations with families, really getting into the nitty gritty. And then, in society, the back and forth conflicts between long standing issues that we've seen in society, long standing industries that need to be picked apart and combed through. So that's kind of, I would say, the more shadow side of this energy. On the more positive note, this is also a year of harmony. It's also a year of luck. And it's the kind of closure that brings in great relief and great peace. So regardless of how it happens, at the end, you're going to feel completely renewed. It's to just release it for good, to have the conversation for good. If you had been, let's say, if it's a family issue and you guys have been going, you and a specific family member have been going back and forth for goodness knows how long, it's finally being able to have the right conversations to end it, to finally put it to bed and say, you know what, this is done. This is over. We've got out all the things that needed to be gotten out, and let's finish it. When it comes to the Capricorn Pluto, you can find yourselves, if you dealt with very traumatic things around the 2007 era, if it was a relationship, if it was a person or a dynamic, whatever it could be, finally being able to find the tools necessary to let go and find peace. Or if you've been dealing with a health issue or something along those lines, being able to let go and find peace. In terms of luck as well, you are very lucky when you allow yourself to go through release. So the big focus this year is minimalism. Okay. For you, Capricorn, especially when Aries goes into your fourth house in May and Saturn, the more you focus on living mindfully and living with minimalism, the more successful you will be. Okay. In terms of your day-to-day experiences and what it is that you will do to finish this year strong, to go through a year that can be kind of, let's say, berated with a bit of drama, for you to go through it very well and successful. For those of you who are looking to see how this year in specific can be beneficial in terms of work, especially if you work for yourselves, I would say focus on healing, focus on nostalgia. So if you are selling a product in specific, I would say if you want to bring up the past in a way that is nice, in a way that is kinder, in that way, that can be a really beneficial sell. Minimalism, like I said, is a beneficial sell this year. Healing as well, focusing on healing long-standing issues or long-standing problems. So even if you are a cleaner and something along those lines, marketing yourself as being able to clean a long-term issue like mold in the home, or something in the walls, or a break in foundation, something like that, because the desire for people subconsciously is to live more minimally this year, to release this year, and to let go this year. So wherever you can focus on that, wherever you can prioritize that, that's where your success rate will be. Now, on a personal level, for those of you who just work the kind of careers that you're not so attached to, you will find success within yourself and within your relationships when you focus on letting go. Now, holding grudges, not being stubborn, not sometimes Capricorn can really like sit in that energy, and once it's a no, it's a no. And once the door is closed, it's closed. And it's not to say that that's not going to find you this year, but it's doing it in a way that is kinder, a way that is more mindful, allowing people to really speak to you, allowing your emotions and their emotions to be felt before you breathe and let go. Okay. So that's where your success will be in terms of your interpersonal relationships and your own mindfulness. This is a beautiful year that ends big cycles. Okay. So this is good for you in terms of your trauma of your transformation. Okay. And a lightness, a beautiful lightness that wants to find you, Capricorn. So that's what I have for you in terms of the 9-year. This is the second time I did this video, so hopefully it's better this time and I can actually keep the footage. So I love you. I love you very much. And again, if you would like to work with me specifically when it comes to your numerology and your birth chart assessment, you can find that link here, okay? So I love you. Ciao.